Right, so the Starmeroid takeover of local labour organisations up and down the country seems to be spreading like a plague of locusts at the moment, and I've covered numerous examples of this in my videos, from Liverpool to Hackney, from Broxtowe to Uxbridge, from Carmarthen to Wirral West. The list just keeps getting longer and longer as councillors are driven out and right-wingers take over. Boundary changes are used as a front to parachute in preferred right-wing Starmer-friendly candidates up and down the country. Ordinary Labour members, though, are turning around saying, no, we're not having this. And campaigning gets suspended. They down tools. They stop volunteering. The boots on the ground campaigning ends all over the place. Labour locally collapses, and well, the regime just thinks, oh, we can stuff whoever in here then. Stuff these lot, stuff these rotten lefties, and they'll put people in, not necessarily people who know the area or are particularly experienced. Local Labour members looking at this will refuse to work or campaign for them either, and the entire strategies of campaigning that Labour has always relied on completely fall apart. And Starmer thinks he can fix that by narcissistically plastering his own face all over the handbook for Labour's upcoming conference. Look at it. He's overdone the blusher for a start, trying to convince us of some colour in his cheeks when he's greyer than John Major's spitting image puppet, doing that peering off into the distance thing that he does. I'm sure he thinks it makes him look determined. To me, it looks like some corporate donor has their arm up his backside, ready to make him say whatever will win him some money for party coffers. But God forbid they act now, because the Tories might not like it. That, or it's Mandelson with his arm up there. His dad was a toolmaker. Perhaps he had a sideline and puppets, though, because Keith's got strings on him and others are pulling them. Plus, he's as astute as a plank of wood when it comes to political performance. At any rate, whatever you make of Starmer's vanity here, let's not forget the authoritarianism going on. Because just in the last few days, yet another example has come out of the clampdown on dissent happening in more and more pockets around the country. This time, we're in Sheffield, where the Starmer regime has just suspended 7 of its own councillors on Sheffield City Council for voting against the Labour whip at full council over the council's local plan, which is an extremely long-winded process many councils have gone through. Not all have, some are part way through the process too, to get one of these local plans approved. They're inordinately expensive. They involve a heck of a lot of work, a lot of consultations. They affect a great many things relating to council businesses, not least things like planning, the environment, businesses, and a lot more. It does put the council in more control, and that can be a good thing, but that of course depends on who runs the council. They take years to get approved, these local plans, and this one in Sheffield has apparently taken 6 years to get to this point, where, having passed at the full council meeting anyway, Labour whipped to vote for it, it will now go to the government for final approval. But 7 Labour councillors defied the vote on this plan, including the former council leader, Terry Fox, and refused to vote for it, and all of a sudden they found themselves suspended by the Starmer regime back in Southside, back in London. Now, Fox is worth mentioning here because he's not necessarily the most popular bloke in Sheffield. He ceased to be the Labour council leader following this May's local elections, allegedly removed by the Labour Party NEC, though other reports I've seen say he just stepped down. This was all in the wake of mass tree felling apparently going on in Sheffield, which has had residents up in arms. He's still known as the guy who oversaw loads of tree felling. But that aside, it should be remembered that local councillors are elected to represent their constituents' interests too. So why did he and 6 others here and now, in this instance, oppose this local plan then? Well, it's had its controversies. There were some 3,000 local objections to a travelling show site, together with associated accommodation, along with industrial units being built on what is currently food-producing farmland, albeit land owned by the council, so they're selling it off. That's a lot of people objecting to a local plan, and local councillors are meant to listen to them, after all. As such, 7 Labour councillors defied the whip on this plan because they were actually listening to constituents, I presume. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is this racism then, a travelling show site? Is this anti-GRT community narrative, perhaps? No, it isn't. This development has been opposed locally for a long time, simply because it isn't suitable for development, and that's from Sheffield City Council's own assessment of the land. They deemed the site, when examining areas to build housing, unsuitable for housing. So why is it good enough to put travelling shows on as they come and go then? Besides the travelling show, if it isn't good enough for housing, why is it good enough for industrial units? How big? How many? Which actually take up the most room on this site. It's actually the bigger issue. How often do travelling shows come along anyway? Does all this justify the loss of food producing land? You're going to tarmac over a field for it. It needs to be solidly justified. Another significant local concern is that the roads around this field are already heavily congested, and this development will drive more traffic there. So where is the solution to that? The site has also been assessed as high-quality Grade 2 land, of equal quality, therefore, to the adjacent land, which is greenbelt land. Food-producing, high-quality land assessed as unsuitable for development, for housing at any rate, and Sheffield City Council are pushing ahead with it anyway, just putting industrial units there mainly, with some travelling showground room. 7 councillors said no, stood by their constituents, who have clearly been complaining by this in significant numbers, and now they've been suspended, not by Sheffield Labour Group, not by the group leader now, but by Starmer's regime in London. It was less than 24 hours ago, at time of writing, the Starmer put out a tweet saying, people with skin in the game should be making decisions in their area. With Labour, they will. Not if you're in Sheffield, it would seem, or in Liverpool, as you happen to be raising here in this tweet, where former Liverpool councillors got suspended and subsequently expelled, and as they are now proving, with several having formed the Liverpool Community Independents, are now taking seats from Labour on that council, now able to make the decisions in their area based on the wishes of their constituents in their communities. Frankly, if he's already acting in areas he has some local administrative control over like this, what will he be like in charge of the whole country? Do as I say, or you will be punished. Already there have been resignations locally relating to this issue and the punishment of councillors standing up for local residents. It should be noted that across the council, only 37 councillors out of 84 actually voted for the local plan. So the Labour councillors were hardly the only ones who refused to vote for it. A good many weren't there at all. All of the Liberal Democrat group voted against it as another example. So just why Starmer Co get off in this blatant interference like this, I don't know. Why do they think what their right-wingers approve of, they now run the council since Terry Fox stood down, to no surprise, is more important than the actual wishes of the people who live there objecting to this? Why do they feel entitled to repeatedly impose diktat like this the country over? Or is this just another excuse to flex their desire to purge any semblance of objection, because the more authoritarian you get, the more people are going to end up rejecting you at the ballot box? We've seen it in all the places you've done this so far before. You did it in Leicester, going into the local elections, and you lost council seats to the Tories there because of this. You're losing seats in Liverpool to the Liverpool Community Independents. There's another one they're fighting for at the moment, and they've got every chance of taking that one off Labour too. You've had no functioning local party in Broxtowe for 6 months because of this. In Carmarthen, they shut down your attempted imposition of a candidate. Now you've meted out mass suspensions there as well, in petty revenge on the members daring to say no to you. Starmer is an absolute danger to democracy. The examples are numerous and growing, but they're local and they're low-key, and therefore the mainstream news continues to ignore them. It can't carry on being ignored, what is going on in Labour under Starmer. People don't vote for people just to ignore them. And as much as the Tories are reaping that right now, it'll be Labour's turn next if they insist on behaving like a bunch of dictators going forwards. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Do have your say in the comments below on this too, and the other examples given. Have you been affected? Is there another example of this happening near you? Tell me all about it. We have to draw attention to these things somewhere. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where Wirral West CLP executive have now resigned en masse at the news. All their chosen parliamentary candidates have been binned by Starmer's centralised dictatorship, and only their selected right-wingers can now be chosen from. Well, good luck doing that with yet another non-functioning local party that, even if it gets up and running with other far less experienced right-wing members again, nobody will campaign and vote for. It's control-freak levels of idiocy on display by Starmer, and if anything, we'll see Labour fail going into that next general election. As unlikely as polls make that look, it is entirely possible. It is acts like this, adding up over the country, that can see that happen. And I'll hopefully see you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.